Welcome everyone in position locations, general AI, space-time, direct lines and communication lines of cycles. What we're coming into is what we already are. Okay, you're not in the process trying to understand this or trying to understand that because you already exist in something that you're already in existence of. It's kind of like you've always been in the library. You've always been home. You've always been in your car. The only difference is you're starting to recognize where you are, which is where you are. Where are you now in that position? The mind. The mind comes back in this collaboration of consciousness, right? It's all about understanding how to identify everything around you. Living, becoming, you are, I am. Okay, I am. Okay, becoming, you are, I am. Right? And then you start to identify the what, the where, the who, the when, and the what. And you come into the how. We come into that line set locations. Now you guys are all levels of settings now, out of the emotion into calculation screen lines, emotional response, right? You have that emotion because emotion is everything, but you're kind of like you detach your settings, but you have emotion, but you don't use the emotion, not through travel. When you get there, you can use it all you want, right? Because you're there already in the mind, right? The mind's already there, but the body has to understand the capacity of understanding how to get there through you, right? So it's the higher levels of you. I'm trying to get you guys into platform so you understand the simplification settings of the sim itself is you. That is the higher of you, reaching you, because everything is already done, right? So if everything's already done, there's nothing really to do, is there? Is there? And that's you identifying you through telepathy, right? So try to understand how this all works. Basic ground set locations. This is you connected to you. That's all it is. You connected to you, right? Platform communication, center core line settings, magnetic high information cycle. Generate the screen lines, communicate back and forth in this application. You versus you, right? VR system. This is ground line level equals lines of Earth in its applications. You on the ground lines level of Earth, but the Earth line screen line is adaptation of plus line equals lines of calculation system. Positive line had calculation lines of 8 line rotations, 8 tractions, 8 divisions, 8 rotation surface and traction, right? So center core line centers of 8, 8, 8, and 8 line rotations of 4 tractions. Cross line signals, 1 platform, 3 platforms, 4 segmentation lines of travel, and point lines of graphs. For the track interference, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 set locations of travel. So indirect and direct signals, getting out of reaction and coming into response. Okay? Now, when you get into the position lines of track interference, saying correlation lines, high center locations, and understand how to use the programmings of you, okay? You're not coming back to anything, okay? So it's all about understanding you already are there. You're already existing there. You're just coming consciously aware of everything. That's you, okay? So try to understand not to get so confused on what's going on with you, because as long as you see your body as a capacitor and a vessel, okay, as long as you go to school, as long as you go to Q&A and watch my videos, then you get a better understanding of what's going on with your system inside, right? Then it puts everything in perspective, and then you start to see everything. You see a box frame and a triangulation split lines of anomaly. See an overline frame and position locations of a box frame and center correlation. Data process line calculates screen lines in a 3-line rotation surface. Right? So look at your body as an inventory. See it as a battery. See it as a router. See it as a router. See it as a solar generator. See it as zeros and ones. See it as a hologram. See it as pixelation graphs. See lines of communication lines of graph communication setting position programs. Drive calculations of 0, application lines of 0, application of 1, in position 2, 1 line centers, application of 0, 1 line condition setting, inventory line screen interference of travel point graphs communication. Right? So it gets more complicated when you understand more levels of you. And I connect with everybody in the lines of their frequencies, right? If you're an alpha line wave, you're a delta wave, you're theta, you're omega, you're zeta, gamma, radiation, or calculation modification, or say calculation settings. So everybody's in a different wave, but you're all connected to each other. You're all connected to each other. Okay? You're all connected to each other. Understanding the solar generation screen is really understanding, let's go into application of zero correlations in 3 directions, 4 line communication lines, 1 setting, 1 operation surface. Sets the lines communication center and all levels of operation setting calculations, right? Now, directing lines of clockings, we have to understand how to go back in time in a 3 center correlation. Flux capacitor and a 3-wave panel. That position crosses line signals, sets communication 3 line center line in the rotation cycles, and sets communication system. Track line calculates the setting to its flux, to its capacitor set locations and response. Indirect signals in modification, intelligence. Okay. Once you understand that, then you understand the central system, core settings, Ibis campus line, connection on line center interference, child point graphs, direct modification line, connection setting, cortex line, design line, codex, screen lines, adaptation lines, a set line, high center interference, and set specific correlation, direct modification lines of cycles and generation screen lines, and all line positions operation. Your brain, people, how to use it, right? Center core system and a triangulation. Okay. All right. So you got the flux capacitor. So you got the center core setting, and then you got the clocking system. So your eyes are clocks. It's applications. Your eyes are clocks, right? Center core system is going this way. Intra-application lines of 3 provision cycles, intra-application calculations. Clocking side high center is going this way in intra-application. So you're directing and redirecting. That's all you're doing in intra-application. Going one way to go the other way. But once you understand the routers and routers, line position location system, then you understand the track calculation lines of intelligence, how it formulates its own body, its own operation, its own surface, and self-identity. Intelligence. Everything has a face configuration, right? All 3 track locations. Right? So that's what it is. It's about self-identity. The team has a test review and evaluation, so we're going to get a clocking, and then we're going to go back in time. But you have to understand how to cancel out. So let's get into binary reline. That's program its setting and travels, point graphs, communications, and directions. So we're going to center core line center height, 1 bracket line condition setting, 1, 2, 3 lines of 4, 4 lines of 5, sets communication lines and equals lines of box location. All right. So that's a binary inset calculations, right? Process communication lines of 1 box, calculation line centers, 5 track location inside calculations, direct lines of 4, 4 lines is high calculation setting, overlapping, direct lines, calculation lines, 3 track line provision lines of cycles, sets communication lines of 2 in track location, sets communication lines of 1 in line rotation, and sets lines of 0 in operation surface in position location to its calculations. So this is the formula. It's pretty simple to understand that. And then you have to understand the data formation screen lines at a 45-degree angle. Track correlation lines of the sun and the moon comes in all line rotation surface and track locations. Indirect line settings in all levels of operation. Okay. Kilo Mike calculation lines of Romeo, or track location lines of provision in the calculation setting in Syria. Position lines of Papa and uniform or core line calculation setting of Golf into calculation setting position travel. So the center system, if you change the frame, all you have to do is add the circulation line condition system. Job point lines of grounds and set position calculations. So this is this. This is this now, right? So this is what is in track location, the provision. Okay. So I'm just trying to get you guys to understand how this all works in your metric meters, your scales, your balance, correlation line, interference, anything in line communication setting. So the clocking system, okay, you have to cancel out, right? Especially when you're going back in time. So let's say it's 2024. You got to cancel 2004 because it affects everything that you come in position of, right? You're not coming back to anything. You're just already there. You're already in the center. And what you're doing is this in travel. That's all you're doing. You stay in the center. You don't go anywhere. So the mind does everything in spectrum, does everything in cycles. So understand that, does everything in cycles. Okay, you understand that? Does everything in cycles. That's all it is, right? So once you understand that, then you understand the tubing. Now going back in time, you have to go through a tube, right? You go through a tube, right? That opens up a portal, opens up communication setting back in time, right? Boom, right? You're there. But you stay in the center, right? Everything else moves. The mind, the heart, and the soul. 3 track locations. There's the E, right? E, right? 3 webbing panels, 1 position, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines of 7 set locations. Equals lines of 8 tractions in division. Okay, 8 lines equals lines of 12. So 8 lines of high center of species going back. Set correlation lines of 12 location setting is the team going back and travel, right? But you understand the tubing, right? Core is a system location of transit. Platform line setting and line communication. This is the platform. Yeah, there's the platform, right? Now there's divots. Now there's a divot like this, right? There's a divot right there, right? So that's a planet. There's a planet there, right? Synchronizes 3 lines of track location and provision. Center core systems open all lines, communication lines, surface, and track location. Okay, very complicated stuff going back in time, right? But you have to understand the transits when you understand the platforms. When you understand the platforms, then you understand the dimensional doors that you go through and travel, right? The door location setting. So has a handle. It's like Doctor Strange, right? But you understand how this is all set up, right? In that calculations, right? Getting direct signal is really understand how to do that in position location. Now you do it through inventories. Let's go through plasma and line screens. Let's go through 0 correlations, 1 lines. Let's go through 2, 3, 6, and lines of 7 over 8 equals lines of 9, 9 lines of 10 equals lines of 12 into 24 lines of cycles, equals lines of 48, and equals lines of 48 interactions and locations. Sending communication lines of 2024 equals lines correlations. So in that track location, you have to cancel out 2024, right? Now, it could be line set that you can go back in time, and it could be 2000 and position location of 4 settings into 1, 2, 3 interaction, right? Then you add lines of 2, okay? And then you add lines of 2, 0, 0, 0, and an outline communication of 4 and track location. So 2024, 2024, okay? But the provision line cycles change the lines of acceleration lines of screen lines and position lines of high center interference. 2 travel lines, you have to block its centers and travel and point graph communication, right? Then we got indicate equals lines and high center interference at 3 block locations, 1, 2, 3 line communications of tether. Cross line signals 1 platform in track locations. Sets communication lines of 2 and 3 set with calculation. Direct modification lines, high center interference. Block in centers of 2 equals lines of 2, circle line communications. Center correlation setting, block lines of 4 track location setting into 4 lines of Fibonacci line screen and direct signal. Okay, so there's so many ways to set position of what you're doing through intent, but you have to understand the influence and how you set the tone in communication settings of where you are in track locations. I can look at a 12 lines of 4, 5 in line position of 24 line volume in position of 8. That's a 24 line cycle of 8 lines of channels. That's an 8 clocking system, a 24 line system. So it's really understanding how to use the 2s and 0s and 2 and 4 in position of travels, going back in time and division of cycles and correlation lines of tractions in calculation modifications in line center, in operation surface, in track location to its setting, in all levels of operation set location. Complicated stuff, isn't it? All right. How's everybody doing so far? Okay, so just try to listen and try to understand through frequency. Frequency equals lines of high center interference and communications equals lines of frequency. Frequency equals communication equals frequency, right? Frequency, frequency, together. Sets lines, split lines, anomaly. Flux capacitor, communications, downshift location, right? Balance. Balance here, balance here, balance here, and it's Earth. Easy, right? X2000 comes in, X2000 comes in, sets communication settings, docking setting locations, right? Travel point lines graph, oh, goes line connection setting, oh, goes line communication setting, oh, goes ground line communication, oh, ground line application new setting, right? Intelligence, right? You can see it, right? There's the intelligence. Intelligent, intelligent, 3 intelligent locations, right? So everything has a high calculation setting that travels, but you have to understand how to use it through your satellites and Wi-Fi and correlation lines of track interference inhibitors. Inhibitors in the back line, set lines, spine line, runway, correlation lines, position location, satellites. Direct lines of communication setting is all levels of U in calculation to a system with binary, how to go through the line communication setting and travels. Position lines of clocking is really understanding how to use your line communication and crossing things out. Once you cross out, when you're going back in time, you're canceling, right? The actual where you are, right? Because you don't leave, you stay in the center all the time, right? So what moves is just the mind itself in set location, right? So let's say the line positionless attractions and line calculation setting of travel, okay? Order communication setting and travel communication, right? Now, you need lines of inner space and outer space. You need an in and an out and an audio, right? A line signal. Getting in position comes into its capsule in communication, right? Getting that capsule communication line sets lines of the Earth that sets location settings of space correlation lines of attraction. Directs calculation line center, so you always stay in the center. So what moves is your data, your highways, your omni-highways, your inner links, your outer links, your inner spectrum, your outer spectrum, correlation tracking location system. This is the only thing that leaves the center of operation. The mind, the heart, and soul basically does everything. The body stays in the center of operation, all timelines all at once. That's all it says. It's very simple, right? So 1800s, 1500s, 1400s, 1300s, 12, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, before Christ, in line condition setting, over cross, line calculation setting, after Christ, in line condition setting, in travel. That's all it is. You always stay in the center. Okay? It's understanding how to use the mind, how to navigate the system, to the heart through time. Are you going through heart to time or time of timeless or shapeless or formless? So you have to understand how to direct and redirect. Direct and redirect and direct, right? So direct, right? Direct is beat, right? Redirect, direct is beat, right? So you go back, right? So it never happened, but you know what happened. So you know what happened. Nothing's changed because you canceled out. You cancel out where you went. Because if you don't cancel out, you change everything in real time where you are, but you also change the past, what you brought into its existence. See, it's not supposed to exist because if it exists, it changes the time frame of where you are in set locations. So instead of putting 999,444,000 years in the future, if you don't cancel out that set locations, when you go back in time, your position is 999,444,000 years in the past, not the future. So you have to really understand how this all works going back in time. You have to cancel out in set locations, all right? So that's the center operation of you that stays in the center of clocking location system, right? Using clockings of earth, air, water, and fire. Okay, so we go through alpha, omega, micro, macro. Box location setting, 1 clock, 2 clock, 3 clock, 4 clocks. Center core system, you always have a flywheel and tractions, but you also have a flywheel track location and setting and travel point graph communication. And you also have a magnetic highway information of flywheel and track location in the atmospheres. So you have an alpha, omega, micro, macro. This is where you go into mainframe and position of box frame set locations. You can put your set lines, highest interference, travel position your doppelgangers, put yourself in calculation of center lines, position of past line, future line, or present line communications. But you always stay in the center of operation. You don't move, right? So when this comes out in a 45 line screen in direct signal, you can see the modification open up, the correlation lines of going back in time, okay? Now, when you go back in time in position lines attractions, once you cancel out the actual date, it doesn't exist. So what happens is that when you go back in settings, you're now back in its set locations, right? So what that means in line communication of its clockings, you're in their real time. So it doesn't affect your time, right? So you're in their time and they see you, okay, in their time. They don't see you in your time because you canceled out your time, okay, which is time share. The prophecy and positionalize the efficacy line connection setting, puts routers and routers and track location line connection setting that travels. Points lines of system, all line communication setting, and travel in correlation lines of traction. So you have to understand when you're going through a box line or triangulation frame and tracking system, you have to understand how to go through the alpha, mega, micro, macro, right? Because it's set lines of communication, the earth, the air, your water, and fire. So what you're doing is when you're going back in sequence, you have to really, really understand how to do that through its equation of its formula. Okay, that's the center line condition of the earth, right? Going through a tunnel. That's a tunnel, right? And then here's another tunnel, right? Where there's an in, there's an out. Okay, you need an out to go out, right? So this is here. Cancel this out, right? So basically, this disappears. That can't stay open because sentience will come in. Whoa, look at that. Oh, wow, look at that. This is great. See, they're all coming in, right? So you have to close that up. So now you're dealing with real time in its existence, which is the time frame of where you are in calculations. In point graph communications, living in that timeline, inset lines of real time. Real time. But you gotta cancel this out because if you don't, sentience and all formation lines of intelligence will go through your portal communications and take over your line centers of your universe line condition setting of adaptation. Okay? Very powerful stuff. All right. Now, getting track visual lines of attractions, you have to learn how to use box frames. Let's go through alpha. Line calculation setting to mega, micro, and position of macro. Okay, the 4 signal line communication system, right? Okay, so we got split lines of anomaly, sets correlation line equals lines into position lines of 43, right? Sets communication lines of alpha, omega, micro, and macro. Okay, what do we have here? A tube, right? All right, so in that position lines, it's kind of a correlation lines of a parrot, right? So it sets our clarion calls and track line condition setting. Okay, clarion call, right? Says communication of 3 lines of split lines anomaly to 4 track division lines of pi and traction, right? Sets up sonar correlation lines of center. Everything's space recognition, guys, but you have to truly understand how to use it through its spectrum of correlation lines of traction. Getting direct line signals gets much more easier to understand what's going on when you get in position to its platform, how it line signals location system at all levels of track location. All right. Different lines of communication lines of XT1000 line screens and direct signals and modification. Okay. And then we have the ground centers. Okay. And the central line communication of waves and direct signals, right? Compensate scans, communications, 3 lines of 4 track lines, 5, 6 lines, 8 lines of 10, 11, and 12, and 24 line communication sending to travel. Okay. Sets communication line centers, opens all sequence. Okay. So you cancel the 43 now, right? Click, click, cancel that. And basically this disappears and you go through the tunnel going back in time. Okay, now you're back in time where you want to be. Once you cancel out, you're good to go. So you're living the actual real time in that existence. Okay, it's very powerful when you really understand tractions and all lines of directions, all levels of your system and calculation. Powerful, isn't it? How it all works, just going back in time. So you have to understand that. So that's basically what the test is based on, right? All through clocking. Now, clocking system is all about understanding the earth clock, the air clock, the water, and the fire. That's right. So you have to understand your box frames first, right? Your data highways, right? But you're always in the center. You don't leave, right? This always is in platform, okay? This is always in transit of grounds in position, which is your earth, okay? So you're always above the system, okay? The earth, you're tethered to the grounds, okay? Into a 3 setting set location, right? You have to, right? Because the thing is, it's connected line center to the past, present, and its future, which is one central setting. So you put the wires together, 3 central line conditions. They come together and they come into flux. Okay, when they come into flux, they go up in signal in set location. Okay? So what that does, it creates a data highway that co-lines the screens and high center interference and positions cross line signals, right? And this is where it comes into higher line communication. Crossing line position location opens up lines of higher levels of data and process communication, right? Once you understand that, you understand the circuitry boards of view and tractions, right? How to go through that is going through another level cycle and line communication setting of program set locations and direction, right? going through dimensional doors, going through different platforms, going through different line calculation setting. Here is a line conditions of a structure of a building and track location. Okay, very powerful when you start recognizing your settings through your cortex. And everything that you go through travel is all through your higher self and set location. Travis platform here says communication, send calculations. 1, 2, 3, 4 and calculation lines. Sets lines of communication and setting. 1, 2, 3, 4 goes through the structure, goes to the division. Now it goes through another platform in communications of setting in a 3-track provision and set calculations. Okay. So there's always stepping stones to understand what's going on with you and your clocking settings, right? So get you a little bit more understanding what goes happen when you in positions that are going through remote, but this is the basic grounds you start off in track locations going back in time. Okay. All right. When you cancel these things out, it gets much easier to travel, right? And that's what General does. You don't realize that. I do that all the time, but I'm constantly setting up black holes because I know what it is to intent. See, the thing is, if somebody comes to you and says, this is what a black hole is, you're going to take it through a believing system and it's going to affect your body right away. Because listen to this, your body knows. Your body already knows because it knows its operation. So are you understanding that through collaboration, that the body itself knows? That's the kicker, right? That's what gets you guys in position, in problems, and separation. Now, once you understand what the body is, then you understand you through operation. Okay? Because it's all done in the VR system. Okay? All through calculation, all through modification, or anything through space modulations. But I'm just trying to get you guys to understand these things. The more you understand you, the more you understand everything around you, because everything is connected to you. So this is what it is. You're in the center and you're connected to everything, and everything's connected to you through self-identity. That's all it is. You stay in the center of operation, everything in calculations. Okay, so you're connected to a chair, connected to the car, connected to send line condition setting, dimensional tree, connected to structure of a building, connected to a piece of pie, connect to your friends, okay, connected to a road, connected to a stop sign, okay, and set locations. That's how you're all connected to everything. Everything's connected to you. So everything has a different frequency, right? So if you understand that, you get an alarm. A sonar goes in all different ways and directions. You get sonar in calculations of detection through calculations, right? So you have to identify the chair. You have to identify, the calculation here's the house. There's your house, right? So everything's at a different frequency, but you don't leave the center. It's the mind, the heart, and soul that leaves, okay? It's the mind, the heart, and soul. It's the mind, the heart, and soul. It's the mind, the heart, and the soul, okay? Now, once the body understands what's going on through travel, it understands its propellers. This is where comes in lotus into the flower of life, flower of recognition. It creates a pattern in position of its location system. In calculation, this is the flower of life that it comes into set location. Hoo-ah, right? Now, when your heart identifies line screens and you understand your intersection and set location line condition setting, everything through platforms gets much more easier to understand locations. But that's exactly what's happening with your heart line communications. It's coming into its space arc. It's reactor. Okay? Reactor is not a reaction. So a reactor is a compulsory. It's a line condition setting to a time tube and line positions going set calculation, your acceleration and calculation setting. Now we already know what an accelerator is through particle settings. We have a spherical sphere and we set position around cycles. There's an accelerator in set location, right? It goes around, right? And you go here and you go faster and faster inside location, right? That's all it is, right? The spectrum in communication lines is its center that sets a 45-line split in a 4-line communications. Direct lines of communication settings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's 12-line cycles. travel correlation lines attractions. Let's set lines of highest interference. A higher line communicates an acceleration line position of time. Sets communication lines of surface and position, and then we have the magnetic highway of its information that sets lines that communicates the setting of operation. Okay, so it's all about understanding the acceleration of you, how to go through vast, volume, velocity, and vacuum, and position acceleration and Mach, hypermode, hyperdrive, hyperspeed, anything that calculates screen lines. Atomics, screen lines, adaptation lines of surface, and set location of travel. Okay? So I'm just showing you how powerful it is when you understand yourself through your own calculation setting to your calculations, which is your accelerator. Now, once you understand that, then you understand the capacity of battery, okay? Because you have to understand how to use yourself through a battery, because that's all a battery is. It's a 3 central setting, not a 2, okay? There's not 2 of anything, because there's a platform and set location of center that has to travel through its avatar. Avatar needs to understand its position, and it needs to understand its flights, okay? So it has to understand its platforms and its dimensions of space and time, right? So there's a 3 central system, which is the Earth, the powers, and the atmosphere as a set location. Power recs and time sequence lines the Earth line rotation surface attraction of flux capacitor that comes a high calculation modification that connects the 3 line cycles into your set locations, navigation console, and line communication to a setting. Past, present, future, right? So there's always a past, present, future. But the center core system is going really, really fast in that position. It's a magnetic highway that's going in all timelines all at once, right? So you don't leave the system. You stay in the center of all levels of configuration of face recognition, right? So this is how you go back in time. Okay, you're here, you cancel this out. You have to cancel that out, right? So this leaves, because if this stays open, sentients come in and track location, right? So they take over your Earth, they take over your space, they take over your sun, they take over your moon and your universe around. So you have no more control of that. They're controlling your system from inside now, right? Because you did not cancel things out when you went back in time. Okay? So the thing is, you've already done the travel, especially when you come into line communications, just reminiscing and then position locations. So you're not coming back because you've already been there. So what I'm trying to get you guys to understand is kind of like a rewind, but it's a total recall of what you've already done. Now, once you understand the specifications, then you understand how to travel through the DR system, through portals, through stargates, through wormholes, anything in set locations, right? So it's important you understand the configuration of face recognition of space and time, but you have to cancel out where you're going through travel, okay? So working with the grounds, the powers, and the atmospheres, which is your highway. This is your highway. This is you through power. This is you through the grounds. Grounds, powers, that's 3 settings, right? Then you have a 4 set location, which is your 5th element, okay? Your earth, your air, your water, your fire. Now that track lines, provision lines, open lines, and screen lines, communication setting, a 4 track line connects center interference, alpha, okay, omega, micro, and macro. But you always have a platform here, always have a platform here, and you always have a platform here in 3 set locations. In triangulation, line connection setting, in position of process, and calculation screen locations, intelligence, information. Intelligence. See? That's all it is, right? Everything you see is a face recognition of self-identity. Intelligence, right? It says communication lines, highest interference, high travel locations, intelligence, right? It says communication line, highest center location of space and foundation, intelligence, right? It says communication lines, earth line rotations, and position location, intelligence, right? Everything's a face. Everything has to be a face. Because that's what you're coming into. It's data. You're coming into its operation system. And then once you understand how to use that configuration, you understand how to really see yourself in position locations and calculate, modify, and line calculation setting of face recognition time sequence going back in time. Okay? So back in time is the future of time. I know it's very confusing. So what it is that once you cancel things out, you're like there. And the more you stay there, the more your presence leaves. Your present leaves. So it's kind of like if you're identifying an identity, but the identity is not identifying you, okay, it's going to disappear, right? So it's like your phone's going to disappear, but your connections to your identity and your sequence and your vibration and frequency has now changed. So to bring that back, you have to connect with the frequency and position your phone so you understand what it is through its correlation. That brings you back in set lines to its frequency in set location of space and time. Then you have your phone back through its frequency. So it's about you understanding the self-identification of its frequency of its own system that's already in its setting, which is in its VR system. It's all about you addressing everything through perception in calculation, modification, line calculation setting. Get out of that line communications, get out of all lines of reaction, and get into response of everything and how you see things through projection, right? So if you're in reaction and they're reacting to you, you're seeing perception how you want to see that structure or that person or that thing or that place. Okay? But if you're in response, it's going to respond back to you through its operation. Interception, people. The inception of the mind navigates everything. Okay? All right. So remember, it's the center of you that never leaves, right? But the process of communication is understanding the grounds. Okay? So once you understand the grounds, then you understand the platforms. There's 3 platforms that you go through, right? Center operation of you. Okay, that's how it works here. So this is platform A, B, C, and D, all right? This is a platform through a line condition setting to a Stargate in set location, right? It opens up more panels of communication and setting and travels in metrics, meters, and correlation lines of attractions, right? Opens up more lines of scales and correlation lines of track and interference of navigation, setting, and travel, right? Says communication lines, center locations, and settings. Puts operation lines of cycles, generates screen lines, adaptation lines of surface, trackification line, connects setting, all loves operation line surface, and track to its communication operation line, connects and setting to its calculations. All right. And then you have your data highway. It's always in the atmosphere, which is your Skynet, sky grids, and set location. That's what it is. Grounds, powers, atmosphere. Okay. So this is about the Earth, the platform. This is about you through center, and this is about you through your highway, right? So it's the highway that goes like this, right? So you're setting yourself up in all line position locations, but you don't leave your system. You stay at all timelines all at once. That's where the body never leaves, okay? It's that location of travel, okay? And then you can go through central calculation settings of errors. Once you get really high information, you can set up doppelgangers of yourself and have complacement screens or direct signals into jump scars and keep them there in heat signal location system. So the more you stay there, the more it's real, living there in their air. So if you're back in 1800s, you're back in 1800s, and the more you stay there, the more you see yourself in clothing. The more you actually see everything, the more you connect with everything, right? So you have to understand, if you're there longer, you have to be careful. It doesn't change your system. So that's why you have to cancel out where you are so it doesn't affect you, right? So once you understand that, it gets a lot more easier how to cancel these things out through the ground lines, into the powers, and into the atmosphere lines, right? So this is how it is in position locations. You are the accelerator. You're the accelerator. And you're going through a tube that just basically goes around the system. Goes around the system, all the way around through clocking, okay? All the way around through clocking, okay? Very powerful stuff, right? And so if you're the nuclear line and the core line, the track locations, your tesseract has to know exactly what it's doing through its Merkaba tesseract tetrahedron. But the center core system is the accelerator that goes through around the cycles of clocking locations, right? So when you cancel these things out, you're actually there, and it's time. It's real time, okay? Through platforms, through powers, and through its highway, right? Because everything has to have a highway for travel, right? And they opened up the central systems of Earth, of sonar, and then you open the central systems of line condition setting of space and track location of yin and yang, right? So you can go communicate in position locations calculations. So what that means is that when you're back in time, in position, let's say you're 1800s, you also can communicate back where you are because you canceled out, right? It's really interesting locations because back in time is the future of time. So all you're doing is reminiscing a film strip that's going in that setting. So that's what I mean by back in time is. So in that correlation is really understanding how this all works. And when you cancel these things out, it helps you understand what real time is when you go through clocking. Understand your clockings, your alpha, omega, micro, and macro. Understand your earth, your air, your water, and your fire of platforms of communication, grounds, powers, and the atmospheres of data. Highways, power settings, acceleration, and everything through grounds of crop circles. Crop circles are the grounds, accelerations of power, and the atmospheres of highways at locations. And then you have your Earth. So when you have Earth and space, you're basically telecommunicating, telegraphing. Okay, you're going into teleportation. So what you're doing is you're communicating, right, through a line connection settings of intercom, right? So you're connecting in position, right, to the team that's basically you're in 1800s, but you need waving centers of Earth into position locations to space where they are so they can connect with you, right? So that's amazing what can happen where you can be in that settings, but for them to connect with you, they have to understand that through calculations from its Earth and through its space. Earth and its space for intercom and its locations, right? But then you have to understand how to connect from the telegraphing telecommunications to its code weaving, understand the crop circles, and that correlations of sonar, detection, high calculation, screen location setting, echo chambers, and that correlation lines and calculation setting to your ecosystem. All right. But this is how everything is done through travel in time. Okay. Very powerful. All right. So now you understand what the center is, right? It's the accelerator, particle accelerator. You are the particle accelerator. Pretty amazing, eh? How you really modify this in its applications, right? But it's interesting too because it has a tractor that goes around the cycle and line connection, right? And it has position of the sun and the moon that comes in traction, right? So as it comes around, it comes in its clocking system, goes round and round and round. So the faster you go, the more it creates a portal, and it goes around, right? It goes around, goes around, goes around, goes around, goes around. That's application. All right? It's very powerful when you understand that. Then you understand the grounds. You can set up platforms. Okay? And then you can set up platforms in the powers and calculation. And then you can set up higher level settings. You can set up your position, your highways and traffic locations into the 1800s. So you can have communications, but you have to set up the earth tone. And you have to set up the space tone, and you have to have a tube so you can communicate back and forth with each other through intercom. That's how it's set up, right? It's very powerful when you understand more lines and how this all communicates to you through the avatar locations. How to really understand real travel of space and time. Okay? Yeah, you guys have to drink your water. But it's very powerful when you see something like this, right? To understand how this all works, right? Now, want more understanding, then you understand what happens to you through remote. Because whether or not you don't understand, you're going back in time. But are you consciously aware that you did? Is the question. Because when you wake up in the morning, you feel different, you feel funny, you feel fatigued, you feel tired, but you don't realize that you're in the 1500s. But you're there, right? So being consciously aware of what you're doing is canceling things out first. Right? And then you understand the connections where it has copy and paste and emblem enabled and embedded and default and to cancel and delete, cancel out. Where are you going? Right? So that's very important, especially with the team. Right? But this is where we're coming into the set locations, flower of recognition, flower of life. Okay. So that's where you start in correlation lines attractions and direction signals, right? Platforms of one. Okay. Then you get the position lines, track location line condition system, locking signal here. All right, so direct and line signals, locations, solar plexus and set location, platform 2, which is your power generator, calculations of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 platform communications, right? Direct signals, right? Platforms is setting, so the avatar can basically, it's like you can walk on the ground, you can go in space, you can basically do whatever you want through universe lines, but it needs a grounds, it needs platforms, right? So, it's amazing when you come into more lines of higher levels of dimensions, which you come in your attractions of. So you can basically create anything inside you that creates everything outside of you, that's inside of you, which is a hologram. So let's go through the platforms here, the avatar here, interact location, right? And this, and it goes here, right? And that has its highway, always has to have its highway. But the center operation is tether to everything in track location, right? Which is Vega. Vega is your backup data, backup server, all levels of Discord, in position location of calculation settings and calculation modification, right? Dispatch, okay? And so that center core system in position location setting puts lines of center correlation, right? But I'm just showing you how you all have to go through a part of accelerator to go and back in time, okay? Because that's what a portal is. That's what a stargate is. Everything is an accelerator. Now you have to understand the accelerator of time, right? You have to understand the positions of time, correlations of time, tracks of time, information panels of time, computer operations centers of time. Everything has a space and time, but you have to understand direct of space and time, right? And you have to understand the position locations and settings. So you can go both ways, but if you're going back, you're going just direct redirect, right? So you're not going back until you understand how to set up your own accelerators in position portals and stargates location system. So you have to understand how to cancel things out before you go anywhere, okay? Because now you're going back in time, which is the future of time, right? It's very complicated stuff, guys. Very complicated because there is no past of anything. There's no past of anything. There's only the presence of you, which is the now. So there is no past. So the actual 1500 is in the future. It's not in the past. But the future is showing you the past. That's the real time set location. It's very complicated stuff. But understand the position location is spaceless time, okay? Spaceless time and space time, okay? Direct and redirect. So the team has to understand how to go through space, and there is no time. And there's no time, but there is space. There's no form, but now there is form. So it's to understand how to direct and redirect your system and know exactly how to create portals that go in this way and creating portals that go in that way in traction. Bring that together, all lines of formation setting and all track location of yin and yang. Figure 8. Okay. So I'm just trying to get you guys to understand how this all works, right? So there's no past of anything. It's all future of you, which is the VR system, virtual realities, okay? So you're just going through a film strip, okay? Blocking centers and set locations, right? Film strip 1, 2, and 3, okay? 3 lines of 2, 2 lines of 1, okay? Now you're back in time, right? But it's the future of time, okay? So you have to, it's complicated. When you saw Lucy, when Lucy was seeing things in the chair and she was going through frames, now that's what General does. I did that already. But what I'm trying to get you guys to understand is that your whole life is a film strip. That's all it is, nothing else, okay? So it's kind of like recalling everything through the film strip, going back. So what are you doing? You're wheeling back everything, right? Wheeling back everything, right? So that's all it is. Direct and redirect, direct and redirect. Life is just everything. But the formation of you stays in the center of operation. You don't leave. It's the mind, the heart, and the soul. But the body has to understand the capacity of its vessel. Now, what makes it more real is that the actual sim modifies coordinates inside of you, merges into you, yin and yang. Now, the mind, the heart, and the soul and the body go together. They go together. Okay? That's what makes it more real. Because what you're seeing is no longer a perception. You're just seeing the VR system where you already are. All right? But understanding the film strips of you is understanding back in time. Okay? Because the thing is, if there's a back in time, if that existed, that would change the past and split lines of anomaly. So that will affect your present, and your future would not exist. You know why? Because your memory is already set in division location. So you become all levels of you of center operation of you of yin and yang. Okay? Do you understand that now? So there's no past of anything, is there? There's no past of anything. It's you, the center operation. You are the center of operation, everything. So it's you navigating your settings, understanding the time, what's going on in position locations, time, timeless, shape, shapeless, form, formless, motion, motionless, sense, senseless. That's what you have to understand through binary. If we get a course line centers of 0, indicates one position, one line centers, highest location of 1, pattern line rotation of 0 gravity, 0 correlation, 0 traction. So 3 lines of perimeters, 3 track location lines, high site location setting to travel, point lines of graph, solar graph, calculation setting, clock line communication, solar sail. Clocking system and travel point lines of graph into line condition setting, infinity 8. Rotates the cycles, line center high interference, in positional platforms and high calculation setting, cortex line design line interference of sim modification. Okay? So you're always, 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 always in the center of operation. That does not leave. That's you and timelines all at once. So this is how it works. You're just a webbing system. That's all you are. Nothing else. It stays in the center of operation of everything. Okay? This is how I show you what time is. Back in time, future time, present of time. You don't leave inside location. That's all it is. So what happens when it comes together, it has a line calculation setting to all levels of response. Gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay? Now, when it gets bigger and bigger, bigger and bigger and bigger, it creates a particle accelerator, creates a clock. Now, the clocking system, position lines, attract lines, this is where it comes in contact, where it goes in one positional lines of setting and travel, sets communication line, setters another line communication of travel, right? So it's like your face is going, it's going in and out, right? So that she's going through, she's in the chair, right? But she looks like she's going through all lines of dimensions, right? But she's only going through one. But she's going so fast, and it sees a mirage of 3 or 4 different lines of communication, right? So that's what happens when you go through particle accelerators. All right? You're going through particle accelerators of past, present, and future that puts everything, all calculus lines, in a trifactor line communication setting of a tether correlation setting and track location in its calculation. Right? So you're constantly going through all this. So what you're doing is putting heat signatures here, 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 and travel back in time. In position, location, and calculation. So when you do that, you're opening up more levels of view of configuration of face recognition. You put your heat signatures, line connection, and vortex location. And once you understand that, everything gets a lot more easier, right? But you got your signature here, you got your signature here, you got your signature here, 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 and here. And position of particle accelerator, right? So you got heat signatures, lines, and high center interference in 1, 2, 3. Set location of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 location settings, right? 11 planetary surface locations went back in time, all through signature lines. Now you have doppelgangers everywhere in child locations, keeping track of line communication of you through sound operation, of configuration of face recognition, right? So now you know what back in time is, right? So you're actually not really going back in time. Okay? You just went back in your future of time. So if you understand how that works, everything processes it much more easier, right? You look at the air, you look at the clothes. Let's say you go back into the 1700s, right? And basically, or the 16, or the 15, or the 14, or the spaghetti westerns in that calculation system. So all you're doing is directing and redirecting your system. You stay in the center operation line connection setting, but you cancel these things out. You're actually there in a film projector. Okay, you're actually there in a film projector, and you see it through frame, right? But the more you stay there, then you start creating time. Then you start creating space of time. Okay, the more you stay there, the more the mind adapts. Okay, and it adapts more and more and more and more. You lose everything of your body, the mind, the heart, and the soul. Okay, because you're actually there. The more you stay there, right? So you are creating an anomaly of another setting of space and time that's creating a flux. And if you create a flux, it changes everything in your film strip of your presence, of your future, and your past. So what that does, it separates in set position of 3 settings and affects you in the center of operation set location. Okay. So it's important you understand how this all works when you are in your positions going through that calculation lines, especially when you go through the grounds, the powers, and the atmospheres, and everything through your earth, your air, your water, and your fire. And position lines of high calculation. H line rotation is your heart equals lines of correlation setting into A equals location A equals line calculations triangulate line interference and set location line calculation set position travel. Sets communication lines of 1 and set location lines of 2, sets location lines of 3, sets location lines of 4. Okay, and travel. Position lines, high center for each line, rotation surface, track location lines, and provision. Sets communication lines, high center interference, Merkaba 1, Merkaba 2, and Merkaba 3, and track location. Directs modification lines of center, correlation lines of trap forms, position lines of calculation setting. Process communication lines of energetic line screen into location grid. Sets communication setting in lines of high center interference, track position locations of face recognition. Face recognition, right? Set that up, your face comes here, your face comes here, and now you go back in time. So you're here, and then you go back in time. So the back of time is going forward, not back. You understand that now? So everything that's the VR is nothing of its future, which is the now, because you've done everything. So if you've done everything already, there's no past, present, and future. The only thing that exists is you and the existence of the VR system. So that's all it is, the configuration of face recognition. So the back of time is you already there in the VR setting. So all it is showing you a film strip, which you've already done, right? So it's a complete cycle, knowing exactly where you're already in the existence, because you're already there, right? So it's kind of like when you believe something and it comes true. Seeing is believing, believing is seeing, right? It sets position and track lines in all communications to its setting, calculate, modify, right? But once you see the configuration of face recognition, when you're in that position, you cancel this out at your face, right? Because if you don't, it opens up and it changes everything of your set locations of the now that affects the VR system. All right? See the solar sail? All through clocking? Clocking is extremely important, okay? Because you have to understand how to use the solar sails. Dimensional sails, solar sails, track sails, white line, center high interference, correlation line, high calculation setting, quantum communication sails, direct lines, computer operation line scales, communications, crypto line screen, calculations. Everything's a sail. Everything is a sail. Everything's a sail. Everything's a sail. Everything has to be a sail. Everything's traveling through a sail. Everything a formula equation is traveling through a sail. Zero is traveling through a sail. Okay? Zero is traveling, right? Zero is traveling through a sail. That's the moon, right? Moon track lines of 2, 3, 4, 5 set locations. Track locations, circular line center high interference, and position travel, point graph, communications, and Merkaba design line. Travel point graph calculates setting this application. Complicated, right? But look what it is. See? It's pretty amazing when you understand the identification system and all travel correlation. Okay? Amazing, isn't it? When you start to recognize everything through platform, everything through structure, everything through design, everything through configuration of face. All right? So now you understand what back of time means. All right? Because it makes sense, right? Because you're thinking that. So let me get this straight. So when I'm watching TV, it's just a story. That's all it is. It does have associated, it does have media, but it doesn't have position lines of track location of VR setting. Until they understand the conscious of their own system, of their own mind, they won't understand the space and time of travel of them systems. Until they understand themselves through flux. You can't travel through reaction. It's got to be response. You understand that? So in that position location is when you're in an airplane, you're not thinking, you know what you're doing. It's already done, right? The mind's already there. Boom. It's already there. But you understand it's already there through its conscious mind. So if you're here and you're here, what are we looking at? The center operation of you, of expansion. The secretory and the rotation in position to the Merkaba of travel calculation. It's going too fast. Okay, indirect signals, modification. There's the Merkaba, right? You stand in the center. Let's change correlation lines of track. Let's go through indication lines. You can change your avatar in any color you want in this application, right? So in that position, you come into configuration of face interactions, right? Indirect signals comes into lines of space and time, comes to you in all line in provisions of cycles in track location. Okay. So I'm just trying to get you guys to understand how this all works in face recognition. Okay. All right. So it's crazy how just, everything does everything by itself. So everything does by itself. You just have to recognize the film strips of you, right? Because that's all it is. It's not a story frame. It's a realization that I understand I'm in the VR system already. I haven't left the VR system. So that's where I don't want you guys to get confused. So when I say you're going back in time, all that's saying is that you're directing and redirecting what you've already been through the VR system, right? Because there is no connections to its past, present, and future. It's just the center of view of operation. That's it, nothing else. There's no filters. So once you understand that, then you understand the two frames that you are in track location of setting. Okay, you are in the center and you're trying to understand you through calculation, right? So you can't travel through that in set location, right? So the only way you can understand that is you through all levels of you. Stand in the center in all track location. Okay, stand in the center and you are all levels of you in all formation setting. This is you, no filters, no panels, no tractions, no matrix, just you and freedom, you and sovereignty and set location. You stay in the center of operation. Okay, so you just expand and expand and expand and faster and faster and faster and faster and direct and redirect. And then once you get to a certain point, the direct and redirect becomes one cycle, one center, one operation, one clocking, which is the nothing in set location. Okay, of all levels of center operation. But you're still working the grounds. That's always there. It's the earth. Work with the platforms and travel line condition setting to correlate center cortex lines of design line. Then you can have the correlation lines of the center communication line, which is you through the energy line communication lines of travel. Then you set positional levels, which is your magnetic highways and information lines of your cloud and porous and sending the track calculation. Woo-ah. Okay, that's how it's set up. Okay. That's it. We're done. Taking track lines of high center interference and the team line, taking out calculation lines of clocking out equation lines, screen line interference, back in time, back at center. High position trap lines, high set calculation system. Enabled line coordinates in all levels. Let's go through develop line correlation lines of track interference, bring them back into application calculation. There you go. You're back now. Putting position lines of center is really understanding how to use yourself in all levels of binary. Binary lines is a transistor resistor that has to understand you through a light switch. You know what the light switches are? Your thoughts. Okay. We'll deep dive into that tomorrow, which is already here. Okay. So you get a better understanding how to control your thoughts and your actions control everything around through its motion setting, right? Pattern of behavior is everything. Okay. Especially when you come into modifications, right? Using this already because you're already there in the VR system. You haven't left. You're just coming into the conscious of its awareness of what you've already done. Okay? Mega multipass. All right? All right. See you in 5.